If you were raised under that same mindset and you are like a goon at whatever it is that you do, like you are a beast, you are like you outperform your bosses, you know it, you deliver results, you're gonna crush it in this industry. You know how to get results, you know how to deliver. It's just navigating your own mental stuff. I believe that entrepreneurship is the bridge to economic equalization. And I believe that there's some skill set that you have that somebody's willing to financially compensate for. And like honor that, value that, and like be courageous enough to put that out there as a package and as an offer.
Welcome to Entrepreneur's Handbook Podcast, where we share inspiring startup stories with practical takeaways for you, the listener. Today's guest is Jereshia Hawk. She's the CEO of Leverage, which is a coaching program which turned over $1 million in profit last year. She built this business up by herself after quitting a career in corporate America. She's also the host of the JereshiaSaid podcast, which I'm sure you'll love. I hope you enjoy listening today and listening to Jereshia's practical advice of how you can grow a business by yourself, bootstrapped to scale to 7 figures. Welcome to Entrepreneur's Handbook, Jereshia. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Hey, I'm super pumped to be here.
You've had amazing success in the last few years, but I think what a lot of our audience would love to know is what got you into this whole world in the first place? What made you become an entrepreneur and forge your own path?
It was somewhat accidental. I am a civil engineer by degree, and I was a pipeline engineer in corporate America. I had no desire, thoughts, aspiration to quit my job. But I think there was maybe about 2.5 years into my career, I was crushing it at work. I was in the leadership track, doing all the things, and we sat down for a performance review and got this stellar review and got this 2.9% raise. And when I went back to my desk to calculate how much money that was going to be, it was enough money to go to Olive Garden once a week extra. And my desires, the quality of life that I wanted to experience far exceeded the 3 to 5% raise of what would be covered on a paycheck. But I also had my senior year of college, I had ran out of financial aid and started my own online e-commerce business selling clothes. And I think that kind of going through that experience and making enough money to cover my tuition, buy a car, graduate from school. And that shifted my perspective on how I looked at time versus value and compensation from a financial perspective. And then I coupled that with being a Black female engineer, you're in the 1%, and understanding becoming more consciously aware of what the political system would be, climbing through the ranks in corporate America to quote unquote get to the top. I'm just there's more than one way to have the financial success that I desire, but also create the impact that I want. And that kind of slowly matriculated into me starting in this online coaching space that I'm in now. That's a really condensed version, but it was these moments in time that kind of left these imprints on me of, I want more. I desire for more. I'm quote unquote living the American dream. You got a good job. You're an engineer. You got a good salary. You got good benefits. My grandmother raised me. She's turning 90 this year. And she's like, baby, you doing it. I'm so proud of you. And I'm just there has to be more than this. I'm 24 years old and I'm feeling this void already of there has to be something. This can't be it for the next 30 years. So these kind of moments in time left these imprints, which caused me to get curious about exploring another career path.
I think it's interesting there as well what you said about the 2.9% raise, because it's something which I think a lot of people struggle with when they're not yet an entrepreneur, about the difference of revenue for your business versus a salary when you're an employee. Because obviously now we have business expenses. We have all these different ways of making our money go a bit further than it might do if it was an income. And in the UK, we have way higher taxes than you guys do as well. So that's a bigger factor as well. So for me, if I got a $10,000 raise at my old job, the actual amount that I would see in my bank account each month was barely worth it. So it's why am I going to work so hard, like you said? And that's it. That's it. Feel you're hitting all your goals and you're smashing everything and you're putting in the overtime. And the actual difference it makes to your life isn't that big. But what I'd be curious to learn is why the online space? Why the online coaching space? You knew that you didn't want to continue in corporate America, but why did you choose that area to go into.
Yeah, I think there's two dynamics I want to like flirt with and also still answer your question, like the employee versus the entrepreneurial mindset. If I wouldn't have started my business in college, I've always been a hustler. Like as a kid, I would be selling mixtapes. I don't know, like back in the day before iPods existed. I would, be mowing people's lawns down the street to make money. And I started that e-commerce business in college, made like 60 grand, paid for school, and like was able to graduate and get my degree. But I think that was a moment in time where I really understood the difference between being employed and being compensated for the work that I do versus understanding what was required from like being a business owner and taking an idea, bringing it to fruition, articulating the value and building up a customer base. And those are two very different skill sets. So like, I think if I wouldn't have had that previous experience, and I had a ton of mentors, like I built out my own personal board of directors is what I called them when I was working in corporate. And one of my mentors was like the VP of operations. And one of my mentors was the CFO of the company. And I think having conversations with them also gave me really interesting insight on like, how the perspective shift that you have to have and be able to function out of, when you're an employee versus like, which hat are you wearing? When you're an employee, you're wearing one hat, your values are one way. What you care about is one thing. I was pissed off because I only got a 2.9% raise. From the CFO's hat, when you're distributing, performance raises across an entire organization of thousands of people, a 3% raise is on the high end in my department. So like, I think those things kind of coupled influence why why I've had success in the space and also why I chose the space that I went into. So like, at the time I had no desire to get back into an e-commerce business. When you're shipping out your own products, going to the UPS, it was a whole situation and people, this thing don't fit. I want to get a return. I'm like, I didn't want to deal with customers in that capacity. But I started like a lot of my peers were asking me, well, how are you getting these promotions? Because a lot of the jobs that I got, I wasn't technically qualified on paper, but I was capable to do the role. And they're like, how are you getting these roles? How are you getting these mentors? How do you have access to X, Y, and Z? And then some people knew me from college of like, how did you start that business back then and make all that money? Why did you shut it down? So I started doing live stream videos on Facebook once a week. Like when I was eating my Qdoba over dinner at 6 p.m. or when I was sitting in the car during my lunch break at work, just kind of like answering questions that people had been asking me. And then after a couple of months of doing that, somebody reached out and was like, well, can you like coach me? And I'm like, what? Like, this is exactly what my reaction was. Like, what do you mean coach you? Like, I don't know what I'm going to be giving you. I don't know what I'm supposed to be telling you. And she's like, I just want to be able to pick your brain and get more insight on what you were doing so that you can kind of help me or coach me or tell me what I need to do to get a similar result. And then it slowly built and matriculated from there. And then, I got sucked into this online ecosystem. It's a whole nother economy that I feel like is not tapped and isn't given as much credit as it should be given to some degree. So that was kind of how I ended up in it. But I realized I'm a really great teacher. I'm really great at dissecting steps that I've taken that have gotten me results and being able to re-engineer that and document that in a way for somebody else to follow. And if you can do that, you end up being a really great coach because that's what people like. Being able to consciously document what you unconsciously know how to do is a really great skill. And if you can help and teach and coach somebody else, it's worked out well. So I kind of stumbled into it. I didn't know that this environment or this industry existed, but that's kind of how I fell into the space.
And were you doing it on the side for a bit and then you quit your job to take it full time?
100%. I'm very calculated. Some people will be like, just go jump off a cliff and wait for the parachute to catch. Nah. I was very one of like, I want to build a bridge. And once this bridge has been built, I want to be in a position where I can just make a choice about what I want to do. And that's really served me. So I was in corporate America it was about 18 months of me building this on the side while I was managing my full-time job. And about 9 months in, I had made only $6,000 trying to figure it all out, and we can unpack that. And then the next 7 months, I was able to, within the next 6 months, I had a $60,000 month. That was almost as much as I made for the entire year. And then that was the moment I prayed to God about it. I said, all right, big dog upstairs, this is a really great month, but I don't know if this is like an outlier, if this is going to be like a real thing. I'm like, if I have 2 more months that were 5-figure months, I'll quit. And then July 17th, 2017, I quit my job. So it was an 18-month transition. But for me, my mindset was more about, I just want to build a bridge and I want to be in a position where I can have a choice versus feeling like I have to do one thing or another.
I think I'm trying to remember my journey now. So I think it was 15 months from me starting to write on the side to then quitting my job for it. But then I had a 3-month notice period. So I wasn't quite hitting the numbers you're hitting in terms of 5 figures. And what my kind of thing I was doing is like, I did 6 months worth of beating my salary. That was my kind of formula that I used to like say, okay, like take the leap. But like you said, like it was scary. Like it was scary to make that decision because you think corporate, like I was in the same corporate kind of job where I knew that I could get raises every year that okay, they wouldn't be amazing. But then now, like I could have an amazing month, I could have a terrible month. And you said at the beginning, like it took you a while to really get to that huge numbers that you're posting. What did you learn in that period? Because that's often where the hardest lessons are dealt.
Oh gosh. Well, 3 principles that I learned is like, I think when I first started my business, I used to always think that I really just needed to have a great plan. Because I think traditionally speaking, if you Google anything about how to start a business, the first thing that comes up is like, you need to have a business plan. And I would spend weeks planning, thinking, strategizing, drawing them. I still have like the pieces of paper of like the plans that I have. But what I've really come to learn is that like, it's not about the plan. It's really just about putting yourself out there and recognizing what is a problem that somebody has that they're willing to pay for. And I think more importantly, the shift for me after those like 9 months of just, I had tried probably like 6 to 8 different offers, but I was so focused on the container of delivery. I was not focusing on what are existing skill sets that I already have, problems that I already know how to solve, results I already know how to get for somebody else. And if I did not get paid until that result was accomplished, what would that thing be? Because the thing that I was lacking, I was focused so much on the container of delivery. I wasn't focusing on like, where do I have conviction around what I can confidently help somebody else get? Because what I learned is that like sales is a contact sport. The transformation happens after the transaction. And like you only get paid in business for 3 things: the value that you can articulate, the value that you can deliver, and the demand that currently exists. So I think for me in the beginning, I was so focused on like, I think presenting myself the way that I thought a business owner was supposed to present themselves versus, girl, you need to go out here and what's a promise you can deliver? What is the verbiage, the language that you need to use to effectively articulate that in a way that the receiving person will understand? And have you identified a problem that you can solve that impacts this person in a very tangible, specific way? Like what impacts their bottom line? What's something that's, again, it's tangible, it's measurable, it's concrete. And I think that was the shift. It was, especially in the time when like Instagram was getting really popular, everybody's looking all cute, renting jets, saying make 6 figures in 6 seconds. Your life will change if you just, with your one funnel away. And there was this, I had to really step back and like, again, stop trying to look like a business owner and go out there and just solve real problems that you have certainty and conviction that you can deliver. And when I started doing that, that's when I started making real money. I shouldn't say real money. The $6,000 was real too, but I mean like more money that would more impact my cash, my bank account, my bills, and my inner confidence too. So I think those are some things that I learned in the beginning that my mindset really had to shift around.
In terms of the scale there, so like 6,000 to 60,000, like was it an increase in price? Was it an increase in volume? Like how did that kind of balance look? Like how did you increase the amount so much in such a short time?
Yes. Have you ever played Ninja Fruit? Like the little app? That's the first thing I did. I got out my samurai sword and I cut a bunch of things in my business. That's like the first thing is like, you got to play Ninja Fruit. Like, I think I had this perception because I had read books. I had listened to podcasts. I'd like millionaires have 7 streams of income. So I thought I had to have 7 different offers, or I thought, I had to have this entry level offer, this mid ticket offer, this high ticket offer, and that somebody had to buy something inexpensive before they were willing or believed that there was enough value to buy something quote unquote expensive or high ticket. And one of the first things that I had to do was rewrite these beliefs and question what I thought were truths and rewrite that. Who's to say that somebody has to buy something inexpensive from you before they're willing to buy something quote unquote expensive from you? Who's this, like, when they say millionaires have 7 streams of income, how did every millionaire become a millionaire off of one solid stream before they branched out? So I had to rewrite some truths that I was holding on to, or beliefs that I thought were fact, and I had to call them into question. And then when I really just stopped running my business from this emotional state and started looking at what I was doing from a data-driven perspective, it's like, where have you made money? It's like, okay, yeah, you sold like 4 to 9 people into this $30 a month membership. It costs more money to run it. And I started to realize, like, what game are you playing and what game makes sense for the season that you are in? Are you in a volume-based play where you have a large audience, where you can sell something low ticket because there's enough bodies for that to convert and to financially make sense, which I did not have an audience. I mean, I probably had like 300 friends on Facebook from high school, college, and a couple coworkers. And I think Instagram at the time, I might've had, a couple hundred followers as well. And I had no email list. So when I say no, I had a small audience. It's like less than 1,000 people combined. And I'm like, okay, I need to really focus on a value-based play where I'm focusing on quality versus quantity. And when I really looked at the numbers, I was like, how much money do you need to replace your salary? I could either enroll 100 people, let's say at a $50 product, or what if you just enrolled 2 people at $2,500 each? And I started asking myself these questions, and then from there asking myself, okay, what would need to be true for somebody to want to pay $2,500 or $3,000? And then I started to think about, okay, what is the highest return on investment skill set that you have that it would be worth it financially for somebody to pay you $3,000 because they know at minimum you could help them earn that much money on the back end. So I really consolidated and simplified my business model, and I made a decision to myself to say, you're going to go all in on I flipped the funnel is what I call it. Instead of going like a low ticket, mid ticket, high ticket, you're going to start with a high ticket out of the gate. It's going to be at least $3,000. And you're going to figure out a problem that you can solve or offer as much access to you that you need to offer to deliver on that, so that somebody at least makes back what they spent in the first 3 to 6 months of working with you. And having radical focus is what helped me actually get out of that situation and start actually making like money that mattered, money that excited me, enticed me, and wanted me to keep going down that path.
Yeah, and I think one of the interesting things I've done is different to you in that it's been 10 months since I left my job. And what I told myself is this first year, I'm going to experiment. So I'm doing lots of different things. And my idea was like to try and work out like what was the stuff that I find the most interesting, so that I could then like take that forwards in the future. So like I'm now getting to this point where, like you said, in order to really scale, you actually have to pull back and you have to focus on a few things that you can be really well known for and charge those high prices for. And what was that for you at the beginning? Well, what was that first? You said like the things you're going to leverage at the beginning to charge $2,500 for. What was that? What was that initial offer you made? And like, how did you come to that?
Yeah, Amara, it was very similar with you. I mean, I had 9 months of testing different offers at different price points, solving different problems for a wide range of people. And I think when you are going into the coaching space or going into the online education space, there's a lot of things that you intuitively know how to do well, but you're not consciously competent of what it is that you intuitively know how to do or unconsciously know how to do. So that 9 months of testing, trial and error, I looked back at those last 9 months and like, okay, what clients did I enjoy working with? What problems did I solve that had a high ROI? That was the first thing I focused on. Like I focused on the business needs before I focused on my personal preferences. And I think that's another really important distinction, because some people are like, well, I need to have a scalable business. It's like, you first have to learn how to make money. You got to get rich before you try to build wealth. Like you have to learn how to make money before you get rich. Like you need to know how to serve 5 clients before you try to worry about serving 5,000. Like, so I had to let go of my ego. and what Jeresha wanted, what my preferences were, what I thought looked cute on, on online. And I focused on, okay, over the last 9 months, what problems have I solved that produced the highest return on investment for my clients? And what I noticed was it was around being able to help people niche down and figure out what their offer actually was that they could sell. And it's interesting because my background before I went into corporate America, I've always been in sales roles, like in high school and in college. I've always been in sales roles, working at Cold Stone to working at fashion boutiques, and I used to do auto shows for Chrysler when I worked in college as well, like traveling the country and like helping people buy cars on the showroom floor. So I've always been really great at sales, but I also looked at what was I really great at in corporate. Being an engineer was my degree and my title, but I was really great at articulating my value and being able to connect the dot between what I could contribute and what the bottom line was. And that's how I got every position that I've been unqualified for, which is majority of my career before I quit. So it's interesting. I started to notice this parallel of transferable skills of what allowed me to be successful in one place that I could transfer and be successful here. So I started with, again, just looking at what is the highest return on investment problem that I was able to solve, and what are the nuances around that which allow me to help that client get success. Like, what are the patterns that I was noticing from client to client? When client did A, B, and D, every single one of them did that, and they were able to get really, really great results. Okay, that I'm starting to see a pattern that can become a process here. So I packaged my first high ticket offer. It was $3,500 on a payment plan. It was $3,000 to be paid in full. It was a 3-month coaching package. And the goal was just that at the end of the 3 months, I'll look at all of your skill sets. And by the end of the 3 months, you'll have some sort of like signature offer that you can sell. And you'll be clear on like what that offer is, what problem that you solve. And I'll teach you how to I didn't know how to do this. I didn't know how to do this consciously at the time. I was very great at doing it. And I learned that I'm really great at helping people position their offer, market it, and sell it. So, but that was the offer. It was 3 months. Will help you enroll your first paid client into your signature offer. And so that was the very first first high ticket offer that I sold after that 9-month period of testing a bunch of crap out.
Yeah. And I think what you said there as well about it's often with a coach, it's not necessarily that you have to have all the answers, but you have the different perspective, right? Because like, for example, if I was coaching myself, I could see all the different flaws in my logic. But when it's me talking to myself, then I make excuses. And that's why it's so useful to have a coach or somebody external, is that your clients will have the answers themselves, but they're muddling it, right? Because they can't see it because they've got all these other different things. And what you can really help is with that clarity. And like on that, so with your own package, how did that adapt over time? So like as you got more and more experience, what did you learn? And how did you refine your own offer and your own niche?
Yeah, so we went from selling private one-on-one coaching, and I got like maybe 10 or 12 clients. And again, being an engineer, I think has really allowed me, those skill sets of being good as an engineer have allowed me to be a really great entrepreneur, I think. Because I'm really great at being able to see the pattern and repetition and being able to see what is the process that every single person is going through, which is resulting in a particular output. So after working with like 10, 15 clients privately one-on-one, I started to recognize all these patterns and repetition that when people meet these qualifications, they tend to have better results long-term. So that helped me better qualify who my lead was. I started to understand the game really started to shift when I started to understand the psychology of what was influencing their buying decision, which that really impacts your ability to sell at a higher ticket price point because you're dealing with a different psychology of buyer at that point in time versus somebody trying to buy something less than $3,000. So I started to notice those two patterns of like what are the pattern and repetition that clients are following? What is the qualification that somebody needs to meet in order to get the best result over and over again? But also what is the pattern that I'm noticing with their beliefs, their perspective that they have, the truth that they're holding on to, the fears, what they're choosing to prioritize that's influencing how they're making buying decisions. And when I started to notice those two things, we went from private one-on-one at a high ticket price point. Then I transitioned that into I tested it out in small group cohorts. So I started noticing this pattern of when these people who meet these qualifications, they have these objections, these beliefs, these myths, these misconceptions. When I create content in my marketing that addresses not me telling them what to do, but me teaching them how to think about how they're making the buying decision, I have a higher sales conversion rate. So I was like, bet, okay, like, let me document what that part is. And then I'm like, and then I started booking myself out with private one-on-one. So I was like, okay, I'm going to try a small group of like 6 people or 5 people or 7 people. So I did 3 or 4 rounds of small group cohorts, teaching people how to create their signature offer. And then from there, I noticed again, I looked at all my client results, and it's like, okay, who gets the best results? The best results are people who ended up charging a similar high ticket price point as I was versus charging $1,000 or charging $500. So then I niched down my program promise to say, we'll help you package a 4-figure offer. And then I did that. I got, maybe 20 or 30 more clients in, looked back at my program promise, looked back at the pattern of consistency with client data. It's really this like continuous refinement process of like, go do it, get a sample size group, measure the pattern of results. What new claim can I make that's true based off the results that my clients have gotten, and what pattern or steps of the curriculum do they follow? What part of what I taught allowed them to get that result? Include that in the refined version of your program promise and your marketing and your messaging. And over time, we went from charging $3,500 for a private one-on-one coaching client. Then we had $2,000 small group cohorts to where I'm at now. I mean, my baseline coaching program is $18,000, and it's much more specific. We help industry experts launch $3,000 to $10,000 curriculum-based group coaching programs using organic marketing, no paid ads, no complicated funnels, no large team. So the claim has been able to evolve over time based off the client data that in the client results we've been getting over the years. And it's much, much more niche in the specific outcome that we help clients get. But 70 to 80% of clients, I basically have engineered the offer so that you can't fail. Like if you go through our qualification process, because we're so in tune with how we can identify a qualified lead, 70 to 80% of clients are able to earn at least $18,000 bare minimum within the first 90 days of being enrolled. But most clients earn well over $200,000 in the year that they're with us. I mean, at minimum. I mean, some clients do that much faster, but it's like, we've engineered the offer so well that like if you come into the program, the only way you don't make money or grow your business is if you just like literally choose not to do the work. But the curriculum is so outlined, the qualification is so outlined, the coaching is so tight. We can anticipate all of their needs, their fears before they experience them, and give them the process to navigate how to do it. So, but it's been like these small moments every 3 to 6 months, me reevaluating my offer. What new claim can I make? What patterns am I noticing? What messaging, language, verbiage can I now incorporate that speaks to me more accurately claiming what's true about the results my clients are getting?
Looking at that as well, what you said about like $18,000, some people listening might be like, oh, that's so much. But then if you're selling a course for $3,000 to $10,000 because you've done that, you only need 6 clients to make your money back.
If we can't help you do that in the first 90 days, we shouldn't have enrolled you into the program.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing, is the psychology of you have to spend money sometimes to make money. And I think that's difficult for a lot of people at the beginning of the entrepreneurship journey to make that connection, right? Because the return on investment on a package like yours is there, and you've proved it in like multiple clients. But you have people who won't spend any money and then struggle by themselves for a lot longer because they're undervaluing their time in a lot of cases. Where let's say somebody could do the same results they'd have from your program, but it would take them 2 years or 3 years to get there. It's how do you value your time? And you mentioned earlier how millionaires, like they get there with one income source, but once they're there, then they have 7 income sources. So now that you've been so successful in this program, what are you looking to expand into? Are you looking to expand into other areas too?
Man, it's like we did $1 million profit last year, which is still really uncomfortable for me to say, because that means that there's like, I'm now a millionaire, which is like, so my inner identity is still trying to catch up with my external reality. So I think even, again, being a Black woman in America, I grew up, it's been like, it was just not the most ideal situation. Like, I'm new money. Okay. So first thing that I'm doing right now is just trying to like calibrate into this new identity and like get comfortable with where I'm at. And I'm learning a lot about like, now that you have this much money, now you know how to make money. I thought like this was the pinnacle. Like, once you make $1 million, like, life is good. You have no more worries. You figure life out. You can just coast. It's like, I feel like the game is just now getting started, because knowing how to make money is a really, I think every human being should know how to articulate their value and develop some skill set that can allow them to have control over their earning potential, whether they choose to keep a job or not. Like, I think that's just, it's 2022 and beyond. The workforce is changing. Like, I think that's just like a fundamental thing everybody should have. But now that you know how to make money, like, there's this whole new skill set of how do I manage my money? How do I maintain my money? Then how do I choose to multiply my money? So kind of the filter that I'm looking at is, where can I get the best return on investment? And my business, it right now is the highest grossing ROI that I can get out of any other vehicle that I choose to deploy. My business does like 60 to 80% profit margin year over year. So like, that's my primary focus. At least for the next 3 to 5 years, is really like, how do I more systematize what I've been doing and operationally, so that the business can grow without so much dependency on me. But then the other thing that I've been looking at is like, what are the other investment vehicles that I can be moving this money into? So I've been looking at really boring businesses like laundromats, like storage units, like, I don't know, like boring businesses. The other thing, my money's also invested in a hedge fund, like alternative investments. The only reason why I do that is because my husband manages his own hedge fund. So like, if I didn't know him, I wouldn't even know that a hedge fund was an option. So part of my wealth is there. And then the other vehicles, really, I'm just trying to learn right now a lot about different tax vehicles, or vehicles that help offset taxes. I know you said in London, your taxes are just naturally high. I imagine now, because I just make so much money, my taxes are probably similar to what your guys are as naturally, but we don't get free healthcare or free education either. So the thing that I'm learning now, or focusing on now, is just trying to get more education about what are the different investment vehicles that make sense for the season of business that I'm in and the risk tolerance that I'm willing to give. And then my goal is just to pick one, same thing that I did over here, pick one thing, pick one vehicle that can be my new revenue stream. That's not, I'm more interested in investing in something that can be that doesn't require so much active involvement from me.
Yeah. There's a couple things I want to unpack there, but one thing I want to come back to is, you mentioned earlier on about how in corporate America you found that being a Black woman made things more difficult for you to progress. Have you felt the same way at all as an entrepreneur? Have you felt this ever held you back in terms of gaining clients or articulating your value?
Yeah, in the beginning, I thought that would be an issue. Like, I literally had the belief that like, Black people won't pay high ticket. My audience won't be able to afford me. People who look like me won't pay me this much because they won't value me this much. And like, in the beginning, that was all my own stuff. Like, I really had to start. Yes, there's systematic racism. Yes, in America, the system it's a hot mess express over here. Like, I know y'all know about it and y'all can see it on the news. It's insane. I think the way that my perspective shifted was like, okay, given everything that is true, what are you going to do about it? And I truly do believe that entrepreneurship is the bridge to economic equalization, because when you are running a business, like, I think green matters more than the color of your skin. Are you helping somebody make money? Is there a clear exchange of value? Like, that's what I've noticed and what I've experienced. I feel if anything, like, I don't feel the same level of industry pressure or politics or the same unique barriers that I experienced or had peers that experienced in corporate America. That has not been true for me in entrepreneurship. I think it's also been true because of the industry that I chose to build a business in. Like, I think if you are in any marginalized demographic, you going out and raising VC money, one, that's already hard in and of itself, but two, most capital does not get deployed to people of color, whether you're man or female, whether you're Black or any other non-white person, non-white male. If you're not a white man, it's going to be really hard for you to go raise money. So my thought process has always been, okay, if going down the traditional route, quote unquote, of raising capital or having to leverage my own credit or my family's access to family to go get a loan, which was not an option for me. It's like, what option exists that has a level playing field? And being an online coach is such a low barrier of entry. Is if you have Wi-Fi, if you have a computer, and I know that that is a privilege in a lot of places in the world, but if you have access to a computer and access to internet, you can go freelance, you can go coach, you can go teach, you can build your own audience, you can share your own perspective and build something around that. And I think that's what I truly do believe, like the education space in the online industry is, to me, that's the bridge to economic equalization, because the cost of entry is very low to get in. Most of my clients are women of color from all over the world. And if most women of color who are high performers, high achievers, one thing I was culturally taught as a child is you have to be twice as good to get paid half as much. If you were raised under that same mindset and you are like a goon at whatever it is that you do, like you are a beast, you are like you outperform your bosses, you know it, you deliver results, you're going to crush it in this industry, in my opinion, because you know your stuff. You know how to get results. You know how to deliver. It's just navigating your own mental stuff. It's not about your ability to actually deliver. It's your belief in what you can deliver. So yeah, that's kind of what I believe, that entrepreneurship is the bridge to economic equalization. And I believe that if you have a strong skill set that you know, and you have a track record of getting results, which I imagine most people listening to this episode, you have a track record of getting results. There's some skill set that you have that somebody's willing to financially compensate for, and like honor that, value that, and like be courageous enough to put that out there as a package and as an offer.
And then the other thing you mentioned as well is that you're trying to move the business away from reliance on you. And one thing I think is really interesting there is, like, obviously part of the reason your business is growing is because of your own charisma, that you're so good on camera, you're so good talking to people, you're able to make people feel comfortable and be trustworthy. So what's your kind of strategy around that, where people are paying for you in a way, right? They're paying because they trust you, they hear you on Instagram or Facebook or wherever they hear you. What are your goals for that? How are you going to manage that transition?
Yeah, like when I say my business having less dependency on me, doesn't mean that I will be non-existent in the business. So one thing, the shifts that we've been making is selling less about Jereshia and her personality, and really having the audience have more trust in the documentation of my curriculum and my process. I don't care if you, like right now, we've been able to fully leverage myself out of the coaching and the teaching aspect. My curriculum is so solid. Clients can get results without ever having access to me, and get incredible results by following the documentation of the curriculum that we have designed. And that took 3 years to like really engineer, to fill all the gaps, to understand the different learning styles of the students that we have, to like build out this. It's like an assembly line. Like if you follow the assembly line, we've anticipated every gear that might break, every bend in the structure that might follow, and the curriculum is super solid. So now and I think that's the first thing that people should focus on, is how do you remove yourself from the client delivery without damaging or diminishing the client experience or your ability to have consistent client results. Now that I'm out of that, the next thing I'm trying to focus on is how do I leverage my face and my voice and my perspective from a marketing attribute. Now, we teach live video as our primary medium to publish our perspective online. And my goal now is, maybe instead of me being live all the time, how can I focus on redistributing what I've already said and amplifying that? So we focus a lot on content repurposing. Like every time I do an interview, or if I do a live stream, how do we chop that, and I talk a lot like you do. I can talk for 40 minutes, an hour, and it's very value packed. So now that I've mastered my messaging and I know, okay, these are the phases of awareness that a prospect is going through. This is the messaging and the marketing. This is how I need to articulate that in order to shift their belief and get them to a position where they're ready to make a buying decision. Once I've nailed that messaging, now the goal is, how do I get a cadence down of redistributing my content in a mass way? So instead of me being live all the time, I'm always on, but it's because it's a 3-minute video that's chopped up from some 1-hour live stream. So we have a backlog right now about content that can go published for the next maybe 4 months, doing 2 posts a day. And that's like, so that's a way that we're able to create a process to redistribute what I've already said. So now all I have to really do is like maybe one live video a month at most. My backlog is insane of effective content that is proven to already convert. I need to say that. You don't want to go repurpose a bunch of stuff that is attracting non-ideal, unqualified, low caliber leads. People will hear this and say, oh, I need to start repurposing my content. It's like, no, hold on. You want to repurpose stuff that's already proven to get the result and get the output that you want. So that's the thing that we're building in now. I just hired a marketing coordinator to help systematize the process for that. Basically, we're a baby media company. It's like, okay, we have this one hero piece of content. How do we redistribute this across Instagram and then Facebook and then our podcast? And then now we're tapping into Medium. Like, how do we now intentionally redistribute this across multiple platforms? And then now outside of the marketing and outside of the delivery, the other part that I'm working on is like, I focus so much on building curriculum and building trainings to help my clients get results. I need to now focus on building internal trainings and internal curriculum so that my team can get the results. My focus before was how do I grow the business? Now my focus is shifted to how do I grow the people and allow the people to grow the business. And that's a whole new skill set, like a whole new, like go to therapy, hire a therapist, go to therapy. Like it's a whole nother identity shift I have to go through. But those are the three. The curriculum was already done, but those are the two primary areas from a marketing perspective and really dialing in how we redistribute my content and building out this little baby media company internally. And then also, how do I shift my focus to growing my people so the people can grow the business versus me being the only one that can grow it. So those are the two areas that we're focused on now.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And when you were looking to grow your business initially, how did you make those first hires? Like, when did you know it was the right time to do it? Because for so many entrepreneurs, it's very easy to keep doing everything yourself. And you can reach breaking point and then hire somebody when it's could have been done 6 months earlier. How did you manage that first person?
Okay, this is probably not going to be the advice that most people say, but this is what's been true. As I hire when it hurts. That's like always been a rule. It does suck a little bit, but I think in the beginning, I used to try to hire or think about hiring the way that like the Fortune 500 company that I came from did. The company is over 100 years old, thousands of employees. Girl, you ain't existed more than 3 years. It's one person. Like, I think it's really important to, again, honor the season that you're in and make decisions that are congruent with the stage of business that you are in. So for me, I hire when it hurt, and just expect that there's going to be a crap ton of turnover. Like, I used to get really, really hard on myself of like, oh my God, I only kept this person for 3 months. Like, what is this going to mean if I let them go? Or I hired this person and I realized this was absolutely not the right fit. Like, I need to fire them. Like, expect that you're going to go through like 7 to 10 people before you find the one that you actually want to keep long-term. I wish somebody would have told me that 2 years ago or even 6 months ago. Like, there's going to be high turnover in the beginning because your business is growing. Like, the person in the very beginning, I think the first person I ever hired was like a VA on Upwork or something, just to help me with, I think the first thing you probably should delegate are what are you recurring, like what is a task that you do on a recurring basis that you know that you do it every week or every month or every day. And I think delegate the things that are real problems for you in the business. That's real work that you do, not work that you are trying, not like solving a problem that you're trying to avoid that hasn't actually happened yet. So I think what I would recommend is like do a time study for the next 2 weeks, 15-minute blocks, like on a pen and paper in your notebook of exactly what you did. And then I would go back and circle, okay, what are things that I did week 1 and week 2? What are things that I'm doing that are repeating over and over again? And then the next time I do it, record a Loom video on how to do it and then delegate that to the assistant. So that's what I would recommend in the very beginning. Like, I didn't hire full-time employees until 2 months ago. So we're 5 years into the business. This is the first full-time employee that I've hired out of the gate. Up into $1 million, I don't think you need, like, I think you can get by with contractors if your business is lean. Like if you're operating a simple business, low complexity, and you're focusing on the things that matter most to drive revenue, it should be simple. It should not be complex. You can get by with like probably 40 hours, 30 to 40 hours of like manpower in a contracted capacity and crush your profit margins and still be able to maintain the business. I hire to solve a real problem that exists real time in the business right now, not future problems that exist, because your business is not big enough for you to, in my opinion, for you to need to hire somebody for a problem that doesn't come for the next year, because you don't even know what's going to happen. Like your business going from $100,000 in 1 year to we were making $300,000 the next, and then $300,000, then we made $900,000 the next year. Like so much growth happened in such a short period of time. The person that you hired to help you at 300K may not have been able to grow at the pace at which your business grew. So their skill set may not even be relevant a year later for your business. And that's why I said like team turnover, don't beat yourself up about it. Just like be honest with yourself. If they're not the best fit for where your business is at and where it's growing, like let them go and wish them well and, end on good accord. But I hire when it hurts. I hire to solve real problems that exist, and I hire to get real time back on my calendar. And that's why doing those time studies is helpful. Because if I notice I'm spending 4 hours a week manually onboarding somebody, well, the other thing I should say here is either do you need to hire a human or do you just need to automate with software? Because there was probably half of my work that I was able to just delegate through automation, through like Zapier integrations or something like that, where you don't even need a human to do it. So I would look at what are you manually doing based off what's manual. Can software replace this, or do I need a human to maybe put that software in place, or do I need a human to do it? And then if it's really on my calendar, it's an actual problem, it's a recurring task, then that's the first thing that I would delegate.
I could talk all day with you, but let's wrap it up there. And what I want to really find out from you now is like, where can the audience hear more from you? Like you said, you've got your own podcast, you've got your Instagram.
Yeah, my favorite thing about after interviews is that like, I hope this was worth the time. Hope you got at least one nugget you can take away. But my favorite thing is just tag both Amar and me on Instagram. I'm at Jereshia Hawk. Tag us on your Instagram stories and just tell us what your top takeaway was. I love to continue the conversation. I'm the person that actually responds to all of my DMs. So I would love to continue the convo. So just take a picture of you listening to this interview right now, or slide in our DMs over on Instagram. I'm at Jereshia Hawk, and just let us know what your top takeaway was.